I, I don't expect you thought you'd see another video this quick, and especially as a couple of days ago I said I wasn't going to do one, then I've done another which was like 30 minutes long. But I was out walking this morning and I thought, should I make another one today or not? And I nearly didn't, and I said to myself, well, don't just make them for the sake of making them. But I haven't. I've got a two-page list now in my notes of things I want to do and want to talk about. Today basically is about a 365 I've just done. But before we start, I will just say that I have now spoken to two people. One is Lee Glasgow from Peacock Hypnotherapy, who I'm going to interview very shortly, and also another guy from Northern Ireland who is a surgeon that's retired. So I've got two interviews booked already. I'm quite excited about them actually. I'm going to try and just sit and interview them. I would sitting talking to a friend, and I think that would be really important. And I think that's the way I want to do it going forward. And I want to interview people that are relevant to my life and relevant to my future. And I hope they will inspire you and give you some ideas and give me some more ideas to take it further forward. And I'm hoping to interview other people in the future, and I'll let you know all about that in times to come. Anyway, today this is about 365 I've just done, and I'll start you off with the fact that if you don't know me, I've done quite a few photography 365s. Now, the photography 365s, I did windows and coffee shops. I think I did one on stairs. I think I did one on reflections. I think I did one on selfie reflections. I've done several photography ones over the years. I had two running next to each other. I think one was litter and one was pathways or something like that as well. And the first time I ever attempted a 365, I failed it in a short space of time because I picked the wrong one. This is not about photography 365s though. I mean, the discipline to do a 365 is quite incredible, to actually do something every single day, even just taking a photograph. And in the early days, I thought, well, I'm not being funny, like a photograph's 1/60th of a second, or, even faster, 125th of a second or 500th of a second. But to actually take one photograph every day, sometimes it gets inside your head mentally and you think, well, I can't do this anymore. Well, how about this one then? So the last year, I've done a 10,000 steps and above 365. Now, that's roughly 4.5 to 5 miles, depending on what device you've got in your pocket. Before I did this 365, I wanted to make sure that I was doing the correct amount. So I took out 3 phones with me. I used several different apps, and I took a Garmin GPS and a cycling GPS with me as well. And I wanted to measure to see if the steps and the miles were right. And I found out they're pretty accurate within a couple of steps. The only difference is if you change your trousers and put them slightly different in your pocket, you get a slightly different reading. And I had to be aware of that if I changed certain trousers, different types of walking trousers, I'd get slightly different steps. But apart from that, they were pretty accurate. So I started off, I used Pedometer app, by the way, but I started off after my stroke needing to get out. I must explain that. And as I say, I'll go on to more details of the other stuff in the future. But because of the damage to my brain after my stroke, I struggled daily. I struggled with mood swings. I struggled with anxiety. I struggled with a lot. And I found that if I took Jake out for a walk in the morning, not just for a walk around the block, but I walked him at least 5 miles plus a day, I would come home and my brain would settle down. I'd be more relaxed. So I started walking every day further and further and further, walking different routes, getting out. No matter what the weather, I walked every day. And I thought, right, okay, let's record this in steps. So I started recording it in steps on Pedometer. And then after a while, I'd walked, I don't know, several months doing steps. And I thought, well, I could do another month like this and another month like this. And I looked at the next goal on Pedometer and it was 365 days. And I thought, well, let's just keep going then. Let's do 365 days. Now, at the beginning, I didn't really care. I knew I had to do it. You are allowed to have 1 day rest in every 6, where you can set it up that way so you can have a day rest. And in the beginning, and sometimes I did that. A lot of the time I didn't, but I used that 1 day rest if we were traveling between places on holiday or other things and events where I just couldn't get out. But even on those days, I achieved several steps because I've still got to walk Jake anyway. And I walk Jake every single day. So anyway, right at the beginning, that was the motivation for it, was just because I went out anyway, why not try it? I did have fears. I had fears in the beginning that I wouldn't achieve it. And I'm quite motivated. When I get my mind set to something, I'm quite stubborn and I will do it. There were times during the 365 where I think Jane got quite fed up with it, because when we were away on holiday, I had to go out and walk the steps. Now, whether she could come with me or not. And I think she struggled with that in the beginning. But I decided, doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to keep going. I found so many great things about that, which I'll come on to in a minute. But the 365 was a big motivator, and it was really, really good for me, because in the future I want to do some long distance paths, and to be able to walk every day for a year over 10,000 steps is a really, really good way to find out if you could do a long distance path. Now, even that is only 5 to 6 miles. Some of these days we were in the lakes and away on holiday, and I walked 20 miles a day, and then walked 5-6 miles a day the next day. Normally, if I did a big walk, like a 20-mile walk or an 18-mile walk, I would probably have a rest day the next day. But because I'm doing this project, I couldn't do the rest day, so I had to keep going. I did fear that due to the illnesses I've had and everything else, I would have complications, and then I wouldn't be able to achieve it, and I'd be upset about that. There are a couple of times, this is the irony of it all, being self-employed, you're hardly ever sick. Someone once said to me when they become self-employed, what do you do about sick pay? I said, you're self-employed, you're never sick. You will never have a day off sick when you're self-employed. One of the reasons is because you can choose to have a day off that isn't the day you were sick. You can work around it in a roundabout way. But in all the time I was ever self-employed, like 6 years apart from at the end when I had my stroke, I wasn't sick. So I did fear that something might go wrong. I might twist an ankle, something might happen. In the end, towards the end, I think 4 or 5 weeks away from the end, I twisted my ankle. That hurt. I walked through it. I just said to Jane, I've just got to walk. I've just got to walk it off. I've got to walk through it. Looking back over the 365, I twisted my ankle a couple of times and I just kept walking it off. I learned that you could just walk it off and not stop, not fuss and worry about it. But about 5 weeks before the end, my left foot developed this massive lump of hard skin and blister, which just tore off. And it tore off quite high up the Achilles tendon, actually where your foot bends there. And there wasn't a lot I could do about it. It really hurt. I did learn from some of the toe blisters and that I've got, and you will laugh at this, that the best way around it is cover it in super glue and leave it, because the super glue then forms a seal over the wound, and you just start wearing the super glue away until it's gone. Now, medically, that's probably horrendous. I'll ask my friend when I see him. But it worked. With the heel, though, it was just a bit of a nightmare, and nothing I could find would work. I did try gaffer tape over something, and then to help the boot rub with the foot. In the end, I just let it get on with it. So I'd go out in the morning, walk 5 miles, it would be bleeding and sore. I'd come back, have a shower, and slowly it's healing. It's healing up now. So I made it. That was the important thing. Oh, on the day before the last day, the first time ever Jake ran after a squirrel through me, but he misjudged going past me on a bank and hit my leg. And I thought it nearly broke my... Well, I actually thought at the time, I've never had a dead calf before, but the speed he ran into me, he hit me just below the knee, and he bent my leg back the other way slightly. And it absolutely excruciating. I actually thought it broke it. And I actually sat down for a while and rubbed it and then got myself sorted out and got going. And the next day, it's actually worn off a little bit. It's amazing what you can put up with and what you can ignore when you're trying to achieve a goal. Another useful lesson actually in life. So the 365 itself was done and completed, and I discovered a lot of things about myself through it. And that is, just keep going, just fight through everything and keep going. And there is space in your life. I mean, roughly, I think in the beginning, I was averaging out 5-6 miles a day. I have not sat down and worked out exactly how far I walked in that period of time. To be honest with you, it doesn't really matter. The irony is I'm still doing it in a strange sort of way, because since I finished it, I still walk Jake every day. And I think I'm up to 370 something days now of carrying on. Quite an achievement in my mind. I learned a lot about it, and I learned how to just keep going through anything. I learned that I've had colds and a few colds, not many as you'd normally get, because luckily COVID came along in a strange, ironic way, and we've all been wearing masks, and so I didn't get many bugs and things this year. But yeah, I drove through it. I drove and drove and drove through it to complete it. And I miss it. That is the weird thing now it's over. I sort of miss it. During that time, I had some other, I'm not saying mental health issues, but I had a few little sticking points that I resolved with Lee Glasgow from Peacock Hypnotherapy, which I'm going to talk about and come on to that at a later date. But I then learned that sticking a set of headphones in and going out and listening to an audio book helped. And also just taking my mind off things by thinking about other things. The worst part of it is I walked every day and did a lot of this from home. And since lockdown, it was brilliant during lockdown, but when lockdown finished, the schools went back. Oh, it was absolute chaos with the roads and everything else. And to be honest with you, I'm nearly getting run over nearly every day by people's bad driving and behaviour on the roads. It's quite horrendous, actually. The good news is the last couple of days, that's sort of, because of the changes in the highway code, drivers are being very courteous. And I think it's really nice. Usually when you're out walking, you're out on your bike, you say hello to people and hi to people and you sort of engage with each other. Driving, you don't get that. But this morning, 6 drivers stopped at a junction and let me cross the road, and we waved and I said good morning and hi. And you know, you're actually talking to people in cars is a completely new thing instead of cars just trying to run you down. So it's something coming towards at the end of my 365, which I found quite amusing. It's quite interesting. One thing I really enjoyed about the 365 was I was out in every weather. And before I did this, I would sometimes think I'm not going to walk today because it's pouring down with rain. I would sometimes think, it's freezing out there, I'm not going out till later, blah, blah, blah. Well, I went out and I go out roughly 7:30 every day. And I walk Jake roughly 7:30 every day like clockwork. I have walked him now for a complete year in every weather. I will say one thing, there hasn't been much rain over the last year, ironically. I think there was a lot more the year before. And I've learnt to enjoy every weather and every season. And I actually enjoy going out in the pouring rain. I've also learnt that it doesn't actually solidly rain all the time. It will be solidly rain, then it'll ease off for a little bit, and then it may even stop, and then it will come back again. So it's interesting when you're out in it all the time to understand the weather and the seasons. I've enjoyed watching the seasons change. I've enjoyed, you know, even in the winter when everything starts dying back. I was walking during the lockdown, I think, as well. And during that first lockdown, the beauty of how quiet and clean and fresh the air was absolutely amazing. And I think that time that I actually watched everything die back in winter, the more than it's ever died back before. And then when it came to summer and autumn, everything started growing at an amazing rate. Now, whether that's because of lack of pollution or whatever, I don't know. It's just something I noticed. Going forward, I've stopped. As I say, I'm still walking, but I'm not too sure about another 365 in photography or walking or anything. I don't think so. I think I've exhausted that part of the type of 365 I want to do. And it is quite a tie as well. So I don't think I'll do another one for now. My plans in 2023, which I'll come on into later videos, are to do some walks. Long distance walks, West Highland Way, Hadrian's Wall Coast Path, coast to coast, maybe end to end, etc., etc., and some cycle routes as well. They take a lot of planning. In fact, they're quite a headache to plan more than actually doing them. I think sitting down and planning one of these long distance walks, etc., bearing in mind that I've got a damaged back, so I can't carry all my camping gear and everything on my back and do one of these big walks with everything. It's never going to happen. But luckily, there's some great companies that will transport your tent and all your camping gear from one site to another while you're doing the walk. They can pick up your bag, pick you up from the station, take everything off you, get you to the start of the walk. Then you do the walk. At the end of the walk, they'll take your stuff back again, and then whatever. There's some great companies out there that can do it, but it's not a 5-minute job to plan it. Even though you can just ring them up and say, this is what I plan to do, you can do my route and everything. But I don't want to do that, because even though I want to walk the West Highland Way, I don't really want to walk it in 7 days and rush my ass off and get it all over and done with. I want to take my time. I want to have a good look at where I'm going. I want to take some photographs. I want to stop, have a coffee, enjoy it, enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the people, and enjoy the walk. Now, I've enjoyed this 365 and it's inspired me to do so much more. I've been lucky. I've not been sick or ill during it, and maybe because of it. I've learnt a lot from it. I've learnt to be a little bit more tolerant with myself. I've learnt to be out in all different types of weather. And I've learnt that I can do it anywhere, no matter where we've been. If we've gone and stayed in a city, well, that's one of the amazing things. I've stayed in Glasgow a few times, but this time, because I was walking every day, I wanted to walk and explore different places. So we stayed right next to almost the station in Glasgow. And I walked out to the Botanical Gardens, and I walked all over Glasgow, walked all along the Clyde. I've walked everywhere. And one of the great things is I've discovered more places in more cities by walking. And I've obviously, I'll come on to cars and pollution and cycling and walking at some point as well in my videos, but I've learned that I really do enjoy walking in cities and walking everywhere. And public transport to a city, you can actually go anywhere from that city. At the end of the day, West Highland Way starts in just outside Glasgow. So, you know, you can walk up to the Highlands from Glasgow, etc. And that's what I plan to do in the future. Anyway, I won't bore you with this anymore. I've had some really good comments on my last video. Please have a look. I put one at the top and highlighted it. It was such a nice thing to get a comment from someone. The way that comment came in about their experience of retiring, their experience of ill health, and also the way I sit and talk to camera. I hope that comes across that way. I don't particularly want to use all camera tricks to keep you interested. I hope you'll just sit and look at the videos that I'm going to make. I don't know whether YouTube put adverts over my videos. Please tell me if they do. Put a comment below, because I don't want them to. One of the things I hate about YouTube is waiting those 3 or 4 minutes at the beginning because someone put adverts all over it, being interrupted by adverts through it, and also all the other techniques and crap people use on YouTube videos to get their rankings up, to get more followers and more subscribers. I'm not into that. If I'm talking to 5 people, I'm happy, and I want to make that the future of my YouTube channels. And that is, if you're 6 of you sitting there and you're listening and you're getting something from it, that's more important to me than 400,000 subscribers when no one looks at it, just one a week. You know, it's just not important. I know a couple of YouTubers that have got huge followings and they set up to do a photo walk in London and 20 people turn up. Well, that just goes to show how many people are looking and how many people are interested. It doesn't matter. I'm not into that. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weeks. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.